Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Paul Ricard in the south of France for the second round of the 2019 International GT Open Championship. We are here at the home of the French Grand Prix, getting ready for the 60-minute race that will close the weekend. This is the first of 7 stops around some of Europe's finest circuits that will make up the 2019 season. And it's a warm welcome for myself, Ben Evans, as you join us on actually, although it looks very sunny, quite a cold and windy afternoon in Paul Ricard, but nonetheless, good conditions for motor racing. And again, a very full field of cars for the International GT Open. Qualifying this morning saw Tom Onslow-Cole in the SPS Automotive Mercedes put the car on to pole position, edging out Alessio Rivera in the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes. It was a great fight all the way through qualifying, with Enrique Chavez, who lines up in third in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren, and Giacomo Altoe, yesterday's race winner in the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini, in fourth position. Fortunately, we've had one casualty since qualifying. That's the Petri course Bentley of Jules Gounon, and the car had an issue in the race yesterday, and that issue has reoccurred, so they will not be lining up on the grid, but we still have a full field of cars, and many of them will all be in contention. There is the pole sitter, then the silver and white Mercedes of Onslow-Cole. He and Valentin Pierberg, reigning Pro-Am champions, as we are in car with Federico Leo in the Ombre Racing Lamborghini that he shares with Maji Razak, and Leo able to qualify in 15th position in the end. Lots of late improvements through the course of the qualifying session. Pole position has gone to the bright yellow car you can see on the screen as well, the HTP Motorsport Mercedes of Martin Conrad, who's right up inside the top 10, taking full advantage of the performance of the Mercedes. Conrad and Paquina winners in the AM class yesterday. There is the Row Racing Sun Energy car of Kenny Harble and Thomas Jaeger that's going to line up in 22nd position, when Thomas Jaeger gets behind the wheel the second half of the race. Then ample scope to make improvement. And this is Enrique Chavez in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren, who will start in third position. And Chavez, again, looking excellent in qualifying this morning. Headlights ablaze from the Spirit of Race Ferrari. That's Matt Griffin, the car that he shares with Duncan Cameron, start from 6th place. This, the hour-long race, with the pit window between the 24th and 36th minute of the race, so a 12-minute pit window, which here translates into 5 to 6 laps, where they can start, where the teams can start to bring strategy to the fore, and if they've maybe been able to keep a slightly fresher set of the Michelin tyres back for the second half of the race, use that to make a final push for victory. As Miguel Ramos rolls to a halt, 10th on the grid in the other of the SPS Mercedes. There is Fran Rueda, he and Andres Saravia finishing third in yesterday's race. So Martin Motorsport McLaren, they finished behind runners-up, which were their teammates Chavez and Martin Kodrich, and then the race was won by the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini in the hands of Albert Costa and Giacomo Altoe. So that is how yesterday's result panned out. Today there will be a different proposition, not least because we have got now the introduction of the success handicaps from the previous day, which for the top 3 overall represents 15 seconds for the race winner, 10 seconds for the runner-up, and 5 seconds for the cars that finished third as winners of the Pro-Am class. Pierberg and Onslow-Cole have got 5 seconds, and Paquina have got 10 seconds, and Paquina and Conrad have got 5 seconds for having claimed victory in the AM class. So that will, again, just slightly throw things into flux a little bit. Onslow-Cole navigating his way down towards the pole position mark. The team pointing him into place. The 5-minute board already shown to the teams. They will just make some last-minute checks, make sure everything is all as it should be with the cars, maybe pass on a little bit last-minute advice to the drivers, but beyond that, just making sure that they're all set for the green flag lap and then to go racing. This Paul Ricard circuit offers a varied challenge, as we saw yesterday in race 1, where it was Alain Cadet who led away from pole position alongside Daniel Zampieri towards the first turn, but it was the Brazilian Cadet in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren who led through the opening sequence. Further back there was contact behind, and that unfortunately put Michael Grenier in the second of the Emil Racing Lamborghinis out of the race. Edward Cheever, the third, was on the charge through the field, as was Andres Saravia, making a brave move to the inside of Cristani. This was the move that started the race, as Giacomo Altoe to the inside of Miguel Ramos. Altoe able to retain the place as Onslow Cole side through the field late on to give he and Valentin Pierberg Pro-Am victory. Despite the best efforts of Enrique Chavez late on, it was Giacomo Altoe and Albert Costa who took the win from the brace of Teo Martin Motorsport McLarens. So much to celebrate through the pit lane from the first race of the season, and a win on return to the championship for Emil Frey Racing. Of course, today offers a very different challenge, where we've got the Pro-Am combinations, then a slightly different look and feel to the way that they have qualified. For Tom Onslow Cole, pole position job is very much focused on getting away as well as he can and trying to stretch out the field. Alessio Rivera in the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes faded late on yesterday, but he and Daniel Zampieri, a very quick pairing of drivers. Third on the grid then for Enrique Chavez in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren, the first of the 3 McLarens run by the Spanish squad, and Chavez who shares the car with Martin Kodrich. Giacomo Altoe, certainly robust en route to victory yesterday, but he and Albert Costa, will they be able to snatch a couple of podiums from the weekend? 5th on the grid for Fran Rueda and Andres Saravia. Rueda never quite got the lap he wanted in qualifying earlier. See how he's able to progress through the race. Matt Griffin, you can always rely upon to go well at the wheel of a Ferrari, and he and Duncan Cameron reunited in the International GT Open again. And Griffin looking to move from 6th. Norbert Seidler didn't even get to drive yesterday after the early retirement of Michael Grenier. Seidler, thumbs up from him, 7th on the grid. 8th on the grid then for the AM class pole sitter, Martin Conrad. Great job from him in the HTP Motorsport Mercedes. Looking to make it 2 from 2 in the AM Championship. 9th on the grid for Raffaele Gianmaria. He and Jiatong Liang were on the Pro-Am podium in yesterday's race. And Gianmaria, 9th place, didn't really reflect the pace he was showing throughout qualifying. And then rounding out the top 10, Miguel Ramos, reunited again in 2019 with Fabrizio Cristani, but this time moving across to the SPS Mercedes team. 11th on the grid, Eliseo Martinez, partnered with Fabio Onidi in the one of the 2 Lazarus Racing Lamborghinis. And then lining up in 12th place, it is the Aston Martin of Bradley Ellis and Ollie Wilkinson. Here then is how they line up in full. An all Mercedes front row, Onslow, Cole and Rivera. That'll be quite something heading towards turn 1. Enrique Chavez and Giacomo Altoe both looking to make ground from row 2. Fran Rueda and Matt Griffin from row 3 both could challenge for the lead. Norbert Seidler and Martin Conrad from row 4. Then Raffaele Gianmaria and Miguel Ramos, 2 experienced drivers. Eliseo Martinez and Bradley Ellis hoping to progress from row 6. Nicola Di Marco and then Giuseppe Cipriani, an all-Italian, row 7. Federico Leo and Kang Ling, a pair of Lamborghinis on row 8. Marcello Hahn and Chris Froggatt, 2 pro entries that will feature in the second half of the race. Davide Roda having lots of fun and adventures along the way row 10 alongside Christoph Lenz, with Luis Silva and Kenny Harble completing the 22-car field. So the pack away on to the formation lap ahead of the second race of the 2019 International GT Open Championship. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon here in France for what has the makings of another very unpredictable race, because yesterday we saw the field was really closely bunched all the way through to the first pit stops and beyond. We'll be looking for much the same again this afternoon. It's the pack winding through turn 5. Then it will be winding up the pace at turn 6 that feeds them into turn 7 and on to the Mistral Straight, which is one of the better overtaking opportunities here at this French circuit. Although the straight bisected by the chicane, that provides partial overtaking opportunity on the way in, but also on the exit if you can force your rival offline. Then the run towards the Courbe de Seine also offers potential. And due to the variety of the track, high-speed straights, medium and low-speed corners, setting up the car is a fine art, but it does mean that the multi-mark nature of the championship really comes to the fore, and we saw lots of overtaking in yesterday's race and lots of cars, the gaps between the cars really ebbing and flowing over the 5.8-kilometre lap. All the field, of course, running on the Control Michelin tyre, and they have got to make the mandatory pit stop between the 24th and 36th minute of this hour-long race. So that is the task ahead for the drivers. It's the pace car leading them around. Onslow Cole just weaving about, getting a little bit of warmth, if he can, into the Michelin rubber. And certainly the first 3 or 4 rows of the grid, it's going to be very, very competitive as they head through the first couple of corners, because the start always represents a great opportunity to make a little bit of ground. Yesterday we saw the Tempesta Ferrari of Edwin Cheever looking to really gain some ground. He managed to do so off the start, but that car unfortunately was pitched into retirement immediately post pit stops. So winding through turn 12, and the cars begin to form up side by side towards the front of the field. The second half of the field just needing to move into position. Fingers crossed for Teo Martin. The SPS team watching the monitors in the garage. This is one of the highest points of tension, isn't it? Waiting to see how they make it through the first few corners, hopefully without any damage and still in the race, and ideally having either maintained an advantage or gained a little bit of ground. So it's now the responsibility of Onslow Cole and Alessio Rivera to pace the field as they turn through the final corner, looking to the lights on the gantry. There are the red lights, the centre of your picture. When they turn green, we'll be going racing for the second time this season in the International GT Open. And the lights go green now, and away we go. And it's a good start from Tom Onslow Cole, who anticipates the change of lights well. Also well away is Fran Rueda, who's trying to get the jump on teammate Enrique Chavez as they head towards turn 1. Matt Griffin also made a good start as they turn through. It's pretty much the order in which they qualified. A few of them running wide, and Rivera may be in front of Onslow Cole, and behind Chavez spins across the path of the field. And and big contact, and I believe that it's certainly Fran Rueda and Enrique Chavez who've been involved, and it's another car that had a huge impact into the side of Fran Rueda. We'll try and pick up who that was, and that's a really nasty incident to start the race. Almost certainly there's going to be a safety car. I fear that it may have been Alam Kader, or rather Marcello Hahn. It was Marcello Hahn in the other of the Teo Martin Motorsport McLarens. And so the 3 McLarens involved in that incident, and it's the contact between Rueda and Hahn that I think gives us concern as the safety car is deployed. It's Alessio Rivera who leads from Onslow Cole, then Giacomo Altoe. In 4th place, it's Norbert Siedler. 5th, Raffaele Giammaria, and 6th is Miguel Ramos. Safety car, understandably, has been deployed at this point. And there is the very battered car of Fran Rueda. The door is up, and that is Marcello Hahn, who slammed into Rueda pretty much unsighted as the cars were spinning in the middle of the track. And so unfortunate for the Teo Martin Motorsport team. Enrique Chavez has recovered. He's on his way as Alam Kader watches from the pit box, and looks like a thumbs up being given from inside the cockpit there of the number 16 car, which is good to see. And you just hope that the damage is more cosmetic than anything particularly serious, but a really horrible incident to get the race underway. So the safety car is out. Now this safety car period, particularly if it proves to be a lengthy one, starts to become very significant once you factor in those that have got the success seconds in the pits to contend with. So Giacomo Altoe and Albert Costa, that is 15 seconds. Now here's another look at the start, and it was well away from Onslow Cole. Fran Rueda starting quickly, and it was 4 wide. Then as they came back across, it was a tangle between Rueda and Chavez, and then thump, Marcello Hahn straight into the rear of Fran Rueda's car. Another look at it, spinning Chavez. Hahn absolutely nowhere to go and smashes into the system machinery. Now in car from Enrique Chavez. This will tell us a bit more. Chavez through turn 1 to turn 2 and thump. Spins around. There's Hahn coming. Just misses Chavez. Smashes into Rueda. And that, unfortunately, is a real disaster for the Teo Martin Motorsport squad. Enrique Chavez into the pits. Now, if the car could be sent on its way, and I think it can, then he should be able to rejoin and won't be a lap down. So Enrique Chavez heads back out on track. And hopefully it won't be too long a safety car period. Chavez accelerates on his way, and he just looking to the side of the car where he receives some contact. There's some trim damage. Might upset the balance a little bit, but hopefully isn't anything too profound. And from that brief shot we saw, most of the debris appears to have been cleared, but there was all sorts of shards of bits of bodywork all over the track and the runoff area that are going to have to be swept up by the marshals. So Alessio Rivera, as a result of all of that, was able to get his nose in front of Onslow Cole through the opening couple of corners. Giacomo Altoe then in third. Norbert Seidler, his teammate, having made a very good start to get up to fourth. Rafael Gianmaria into fifth. Another good start with Matt Griffin in sixth. Miguel Ramos seventh. Bradley Ellis up to eighth. Martin Conrad in ninth. And Eliseo Martinez in 10th place. And we're certainly going to have at least one more lap behind the safety car, which is going to probably bring our race clock down to close to 50 minutes when we do get underway. Another look at the start. And it was as they went 4 wide for third, and then it does appear as it was Fran Rueda who tagged his teammate, and Marcello Hahn completely unsighted, nowhere to go. As they all scattered. Another look at it, and it doesn't get any prettier in slow motion. A big impact. Fortunately, the strength and integrity of the cars doing what they're supposed to do. Bits of debris going everywhere. Fortunately, nothing too much more injurious than to the wallet. Here's how it felt for Enrique Chavez. And the last thing you want to be is at 90 degrees to the path of oncoming traffic on the first lap of the race. So lots to disentangle and unpick from that one. Fortunately, everybody else is still running, so we've still got 20 cars in circulation. Enrique Chavez has brought his McLaren back round to the tail of the train. And we should judging by the scene on the exit of turn 2, go racing again at the end of this lap. It certainly shortens the window for the likes of Tom Onslow-Cole to try and stretch away in the first half of the race. The same for Matt Griffin in the Crown class, trying to give Duncan Cameron a decent margin to inherit. There's some overtaking under the safety car procedure that is under investigation. We'll try and pick up exactly who and what that involves. And there is Chavez having joined the queue. It's down the Mistral straight. This the third lap of the race, but given that they have had from this point now 2 laps under safety car procedure, we'll find out shortly whether or not this is going to be the final lap behind the safety car. All the while, of course, the race clock continues to tick down. The clock towards the opening of the pit window continues to tick down as well. There's only going to be about 15 minutes when they do get back underway before the pit window opens. This, certainly with an eye towards the Pro-Am class, begins to play into the hands of those who've got the Pro driver to take over in the second half of the race. Now, Kenny Harble from 22nd on the grid made a very good start. He was up to 16th at the point the safety car came out, and he's got Thomas Jaeger waiting to take over from him and Christopher Froggatt, and then Tempesta Ferrari up to 15th position before handing over to Epichiva. So, safety car going to be in at the end of this lap. So the marshals, as ever here in Paul Ricard, doing a very, very good job of clearing away the debris very quickly. And now it's Alessio Rivera who begins to pace the field. He'll have seen the lights out on the safety car and will know that it's his responsibility to time the moment of the restart. The Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes of Alessio Rivera, waiting to pull the pin. Tom Onslow-Cole, maybe a moment he can jump him. Giacomo Altoe, Norbert Seidler right behind, as away we go once more. 51 minutes left on the clock, and we are racing again as the leading 6 cars sprint towards turn 1. And Matt Griffin looking to try and make a move on Raffaele Gianmaria, and not quite enough space. Meanwhile, behind, Miguel Ramos was coming under a little bit of pressure and has been passed by Bradley Ellis. So Ellis goes up to 7th in the Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin, and Matt Griffin looking to the inside of Raffaele Gianmaria as well. As we go in car with Federico Leo, he's got Kang Ling ahead of him, and Griffin indeed making the move on Gianmaria. So it's a bit of ground gained for Matt Griffin, as at the front of the field, Alessio Rivera trying to pull clear of Tom Onslow-Cole. Certainly talking to the drivers, the turbulent wake from the Mercedes is one of the more difficult cars to follow. It's in car with Enrique Chavez looking to make the move on Christoph Lenz in the Target Racing Lamborghini on the brakes into the chicane, and through he goes. That's up to 18th place now. Chavez, his next targets are Davide Roda and Kenny Harble. It's the front of the field, will sprint through the Courbe du Cygne. Round turn 11, they climb up towards turn 12. Miguel Ramos looking to fight back. Then we've got the 2 Lazarus Lamborghinis in circuit together, and it's Eliseo Martinez at the wheel of the 26 car. Number 27 is Nicola DiMarco, and then Giuseppe Cipriani just behind them with Kang Ling, and then the man we ride in car with, Federico Leo. As Ling looking to the inside of Cipriani into the final corner. Giuseppe Cipriani sees the Lamborghini just in time and has no option but to allow Kang Ling through. The leaders, though, through they go. Alessio Rivera sets the fastest lap of the race, unsurprisingly, as field jink through the opening sequence. Christopher Froggatt and Davide Roda having a good scrap a little bit further down the order. Enrique Chavez having managed to clear both of those cars. Likewise, Kang Ling and Giuseppe Cipriani, Federico Leo as well. Some good tussles all the way through the field. A little bit of a slide there for Kenny Harble. That's an opening maybe for Enrique Chavez, as here is a look. Sparks being kicked under the tail of the Sports and New Mercedes of Luis Silva. The SPS team confer. At the moment, Onslow Cole, something to follow in behind Rivera as Chavez has made the move on Kenny Harble, up to 15th position then. Next target, Federico Leo, who is still bottled up in pursuit of Giuseppe Cipriani. Meanwhile, Norbert Seidler has got his mirrors filled with the Ferrari of Matt Griffin. Griffin just feathering the brakes, trying to see if he can make the move happen. Nothing he can really do climbing out of turn 11 towards turn 12. And the race now, just for the first time, beginning to settle down a little bit. Davide Roda and Christoph Lenz having a good scrap. Headlights ablaze from Matt Griffin over the curbs, accelerating out of turn 15 along the start and finish straight. This time around it's Onslow Cole who sets the fastest lap and starts to turn up the heat on Alessio Rivera just a little bit as they flash through the chicane. Slight change of camber through this opening section as well. It looks a real challenge. Car's always spectacular. And another place gained for Enrique Chavez, who is driving with the bit between his teeth. He's moved clear of Federico Leo. Next target, Giuseppe Cipriani. Jose Martinez and Nicolo Di Marco doing battle in the two Lazarus Lamborghinis. Martinez, graduate of the Euro Formula Open. Nicolo Di Marco, we've seen him several years ago in the International GT Open as Onslow Cole closes up on Rivera, starting to fill his mirrors, under braking into the chicane. Gia Maria just slipping back from the Seidler and Griffin battle, but maintaining the margin over Bradley Ellis. Now here is a look from perspective of Enrique Chavez to the inside. And that was done exactly as he'd have wanted to. So this, the fight for lead the race, and Onslow Cole now really all over the tail of Alessio Rivera. We saw yesterday Rivera just struggling to keep the pace in the Antonelli Motorsport car during his stint, fading late on, and Onslow Cole will be maybe hoping to exploit some of that as we approach 1/4 race distance. Through the twisty bits and round turn 14 into 15, and Onslow Cole just trying to attack the final corner with a slightly different angle, trying to force the error from Rivera, and he may well have done so as Rivera slewed across the road a little bit. And is that going to give Onslow Cole the opportunity for a slipstream and slingshot towards turn 1? Rivera, though, able to gather it up. So they turn nose to tail through the opening sequence of corners. Out of turn 2, on towards turns 3 and 4. Downhill they go. Into turn 5, still no way through for Tom Onslow Cole. But he and Rivera, they can't slow themselves down too much, because that's going to bring Giacomo Altoe into the mix as well. Norbert Seidler. Conference amongst the Antonelli Motorsport team. And what they will be aware of course, is Giacomo Altoe is going to have 15 additional seconds in the pits. Tom Onslow Cole, 10 additional seconds, so they don't necessarily need to have Alessio Rivera fighting this too hard as we look to challenge the inside of Kang Ling from the cockpit of Enrique Chavez. And that is job done for the Portuguese driver, so another place gained up into 12th position. As post-pit stops, the car, the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes, is really racing as Onslow Cole goes for lead and goes alongside, but can't get quite past Alessio Rivera. It's going to be the Michael Grenier, Norbert Seidler entry, once handicaps and the like have worked themselves through. They've got to think about playing the long game here. The pit window opening in just 7.5 minutes' time. Expect to see Tom Onslow Cole staying out until fairly deep into the pit window. You just wonder with Giacomo Altoe, he's being slowed up a little bit by the dicing leaders. And he's now only half a second back from Onslow Cole. Whether or not, if it stays this way, the Emil Frey Racing team might elect to pull one or both of their cars into the pits. Matt Griffin, another one who will be staying out quite a while once the pit window opens. So Rivera, his mirror is still filled with the car of Onslow Cole, the leading quintet, separated by just a couple of seconds. So they look to pick their way through turn 5, 6 and 7 complex. The track rather doubles back on itself for accelerating off down the Mistral straight. And again, Rivera just moving to the middle of the road. He doesn't want to give Onslow Cole any glimmer of an opportunity. Cars blasting down towards the chicane. They arrive into the braking zone now. They ride the ripples in the road. They ride the curbs. We go back in car with Enrique Chavez, who is driving like a man possessed. He's tucked up behind Nicola Di Marco and goes past him. That's another place gained. 11th position now for the McLaren. Onslow Cole draws alongside Rivera, heading into the Courbe de Seine. So Rivera, though, has got the racing line. Onslow Cole trying to force Rivera offline into turn 11, and this time he may well have succeeded. There's a glimmer of a gap to the inside, and Rivera can't shut the door, and Onslow Cole takes the lead of the race, and that was a really nicely set up move from Tom Onslow Cole. He was thinking several corners ahead, forced Alessio Rivera offline, and now Rivera has immediately got the job in his hands, trying to keep Giacomo Altoe behind him as well. This towards the end of the 8th lap of the race. Altoe may fancy his chances into the final corner. Rivera sees that one coming, moves across, takes the tight inside line. So the Mercedes, the Brace Lamborghinis, the Ferrari, all fighting over second position. And Matt Griffin still bobbing and weaving behind. See, there's a bit of debris that's come off somebody's car. And then the slight gap back to Raffaele Giamria in 6th, Bradley Ellis in 7th, Mika Ramos is 8th, Martin Conrad leads the AM class in 9th, and Enrique Chavez already up into 10th place in the back of the train, post-safety car. And what that safety car has done has kept the field split very, very close. The top 11 only separated by 9.6 seconds. And so that is where the success handicaps will really start to play through. Another look at the move from Chavez to the inside. Nicola Di Marco. And the Lazarus Lamborghini driver doesn't really fight it at all. And here is the move from Tom Onslow Cole on Alessio Rivera for the lead, and it was really the way he set it up. He forced Rivera slightly offline through the Courbe de Seine, and now Onslow Cole is through. He's got some clear air, and he's going to do what he can about the 10 seconds additional pit handicap time that he and Valentin Pierberg earned yesterday. Meanwhile, Matt Griffin looking to challenge Norbert Seidler as they swing through the Courbe de Seine. Down towards turn 11. No opportunity presenting itself just yet for Griffin. More up into turn 12, but Griffin moving the Ferrari all over the road, just making sure that wherever Norbert Seidler looks, he will get a glimpse of the Ferrari somewhere in his mirrors. Out of turn 14 into the last turn of the 9th lap of the race. Griffin out over the curbs, kicks the car sideways. Meanwhile, straight line through the chicane for Giuseppe Cipriani. Not the first time he's done that this weekend, as Onslow Cole sets the fastest lap of the race at 2 minutes 1.038 from Onslow Cole. His lead immediately out to 2 seconds over Alessio Rivera. Onslow Cole has probably got time for 6 or so more laps running at that sort of pace before he has to come in and hand over to Valentin Pierberg. So in terms of the handicaps, just to remind you, to Onslow Cole, Valentin Pierberg, they won the Pro-Am class yesterday, so they've got 10 seconds. The third place car, Giacomo Altoe and Albert Costa, they won the race, they've got 15 seconds. And actually, Enrique Chavez has got 10 seconds as well from finishing runner-up yesterday. In the AM class, Martin Conrad has got 5 seconds as well. So lots of strategic dimensions to work through, and particularly when you've got the Pro and Pro-Am class racing with each other like this. For some of the teams, they need to know exactly with whom they're really racing for the outright race victory versus those that are going to be in hunt for a class podium a little bit later on. Alessio Rivera, he's got Daniel Zampieri waiting for him. Very quick driver pairing. The key for them, though, is not to overexert the tyres. Make sure they're able to really stay in contention in the way that they weren't quite able to in the latter stages of yesterday's race. Field thundering through the final sector of the lap. Still Griffin continuing to hound Norbert Seidler, but without particularly looking likely to find a way through, you'd have to say, at the moment. As Griffin powers alongside Seidler. But the Lamborghini just able to maintain its positioning through the opening sequence of the 11th lap of the race, and the pit window is going to be open next time they come back around. Just wonder whether or not one of the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghinis may pop in just to get out of the traffic behind Alessio Rivera. Get the feeling a little bit that Rivera is something of a cork in the bottle, because Onslow Cole's already built up an advantage of about a second a lap over Rivera since having picked his way through. As Griffin again gets a good run on Norbert Seidler as they come onto the Mistral straight, and this time Seidler does have to go offline really quite early to make sure there's no way to sail through to the inside for Matt Griffin. Griffin wants to pick his moment. It's alongside Seidler, but it's Seidler who's got the inside line and the track position as they file through. Now the pit window is open, so the driver change is on for the next 12 minutes. Onslow Cole navigates the courbe to scene, as does the group of cars behind, and as Seidler and Griffin battle, it is bringing Raffaele Gianmaria and Bradley Ellis into the mix. Griffin runs a little bit wide, possibly just caught in the turbulent wash behind Norbert Seidler. And that immediately throws him into the clutches of Raffaele Gianmaria. So Onslow Cole, we anticipate, is going to stay out reasonably deep into this stint. But for Norbert Seidler, the Emil Frey Racing team roll the dice. Michael Grenier will take over, and that now releases Matt Griffin into a little bit of clear air. We've also got in Miguel Ramos, who hurtles down the pit lane, and possibly as well Enrique Chavez as well. The Teo Martin Motorsport squad, they want to give Martin Kodrich as much time as possible to overcome that pit handicap, but a smooth pit stop for Emil Frey Racing. Ditto as Ramos gets out. Fabrizio Crestani hops in to the Mercedes. All change as well for Frederick Chandorf and Kang Ling, the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini. So with all the pit stops underway, a lot of cars coming in as soon as the pit window opens, perhaps not unsurprisingly. Onslow Cole, meanwhile, continues to pound round as now Michael Grenier is released. And our expectation is going to be that Grenier will be the foremost of those that have pitted to re-emerge. Alberto Di Folco takes over from Christoph Lenz. And Di Folco might fancy his chances here at a Pro-Am podium this afternoon. Likewise, Thomas Jaeger, having taken over from Kenny Harbull. Onslow Cole, meanwhile, no such concerns. His lead over Alessio Rivera is out to 4.3 seconds as Fabrizio Crostani joins the fray, as does Fabio Anidi and Frederic Schandorf. And Onslow Cole, I don't think he's going to pick up too many of those that have pitted in, as Martin Kodrich also takes the track just behind with Chiva and Thomas Jaeger. So some quick cars there for Kodrich to overhaul. Davide Roda, of course, doing the whole race himself, and then Alberto Di Folco into the mix. Antonio Coimbra also rejoins in the Sports New Mercedes. And Onslow Cole might be on to terms with that Mercedes before too long, as he sets the fastest lap of the race once more, 2 minutes, 0.715. Meanwhile, in comes Giacomo Altoe, and Albert Costa jumps into the cockpit of the Lamborghini. The Frey Racing team doing a very slick job of the pit stops. And of course, they have got the additional 15 seconds in the pits. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this car feeds out into the mix. Those that have pitted it is Michael Grenier, who is the foremost, 4.9 seconds clear of Fabrizio Crostani, with Fabio Manidi and Frederic Schandorf just behind. Then there is that gap of some 13 seconds back to Edward Chiva, Thomas Jaeger and Martin Kodrich. Approaching half-race distance then in the second race of the International GT Open season. Here in Paul Ricard, it's Tom Onslow Cole who leads the way. Here is our AM class leader, Martin Conrad, and Conrad is doing a very fine job in 6th position overall. He leads the AM class from Giuseppe Cipriani, and then Davide Roda is next along. And the sort of buffer that is being built here by Conrad over Giuseppe Cipriani is pretty formidable and may well be eminently defensible for Alexander Raquina later on. Immediately Crostani, though, up to the pace. He's done the fastest final sector of anybody in the race so far. And Albert Costa coming out of the pits now. We'll see where Costa feeds in as well. Michael Grenier, 3.9 seconds up from Fabrizio Crostani of those that have pitted. And Costa, of those that have pitted, about 5th in the queue. So a fair amount of work for him to do if he was to make it a double victory for Frey Racing and himself, Giacomo Altoe. So Bradley Ellis in the Aston Martin, the Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin. 5th place for Ellis, pursuing Raffaele Giammaria, as here is Tom Onslow Cole, the race leader, 5.4 seconds up from Alessio Rivera. There's 6.5 minutes remaining in the pit window as Federico Leo comes in. Naji Razak shall take over from him. Seat inserts and the like get swapped over. Giuseppe Cipriani gets a fresh set of boots from the Antonelli Motorsport team. Otherwise, drama-free pit stop for Cipriani. Naji Razak now fully strapped in by Federico Leo. And Onslow Cole on to terms with Antonio Coimbra to put the lap on to Coimbra. In the background is Rivera and Matt Griffin. And Griffin, having been released from the traffic, has been able to reel in Alessio Rivera relatively rapidly, as Fabrizio Crostani has just set the fastest lap of the race as Naji Razak runs down the pit lane. And Fabrizio Crostani is only 3.4 seconds now back from Michael Grenier and catching him all the while. So this could end up being a very, very good result for Fabrizio Crostani and Miguel Ramos. Onslow Cole would really quite like to clear the Sports New Mercedes before too long. Thus far, appeals to mark solidarity appear to be falling on deaf ears. Onslow Cole shoots through. He's got time for 2 more laps if he wants them. Just gets a little bit of a tow from Coimbra and then slides past into turn 1. As into the pit lane now has come Alessio Rivera to hand over to Daniel Zampieri. Zampieri to take over from Alessio Rivera. There is the pit stop at work. Out gets Rivera, in will clamber Zampieri. Also, Nicholas Pola to take over from Nicola Di Marco. New tyres going on as well to the Lazarus Lamborghini. So we've only got a couple of cars yet to pit in, and they probably won't come in until the very late stages of the pit window. Onslow Cole being one of them through the chicane. Now, where is Alessio Rivera going to feed into things post, or Daniel Zampieri rather, feed into things post pit stop relative to Michael Grenier and Fabrizio Crostani? I think we'd probably expect that Zampieri will be ahead just about of both of those cars. As Daniel Zampieri is out of the pits now. There is Valentin Pierberg waiting to take over from Onslow Cole. Really, it's the progress of number 6 Mercedes that we're interested in, because the Onslow Cole Pierberg car may well get shuffled down anyway with their 10 seconds of success handicap. Is Tom Onslow Cole going to come in on this occasion? No, he's not. He's going to go for one more lap. So those that have pitted, right, this is very exciting. Here it is. Daniel Zampieri out just in front of Fabrizio Crostani. They are both chasing Michael Grenier. And of the cars that have pitted, this is the fight essentially for the lead of the race. And Crostani trying to hustle his way past as Matt Griffin hands over to Duncan Cameron. And for my money, by the time that Onslow Cole's success seconds have worked through, I think that Grenier will effectively be the race leader, and Crostani clearly frustrated here behind Daniel Zampieri. And Crostani was on a roll, and now he is caught up behind the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes. They can see their target in the form of Michael Grenier ahead of them. Grenier had such a frustrating day yesterday. Contact in the very early stages of the race, enough to eliminate him and Norbert Seidler before a lap had been completed. Now they are in a position that might, depending on how this Mercedes squabble resolves itself, and the sort of pace that Zampieri can get up to once he's got some warmth into his tyres, be looking at a victory. But Daniel Zampieri qualified on the front row of the grid for yesterday's race, as Duncan Cameron has emerged ahead of Michael Grenier. So Cameron is effectively the leader of those that have pitted now. And he is about to be swamped by Grenier, Zampieri and Fabrizio Crostani. It really is all go at the moment. And yes, Grenier already passed Duncan Cameron. Now here is an opportunity maybe for Fabrizio Crostani to get the leap on Daniel Zampieri, depending on where they catch Duncan Cameron's into the pit lane. Now comes Tom Onslow Cole from the lead of the race to hand over to Valentin Pierberg. And in terms of the strategy for Pierberg and Onslow Cole, the combination of being passed by Rivera off the start, plus that safety car period, means that Onslow Cole isn't quite giving Pierberg the sort of advantage that he would have wanted. Gia Maria, Bradley Ellis, Martin Conrad are also all into the pits. So the last few pit stops all being undertaken. So this gets out. Ollie Wilkinson jumps in, the Oxford Motorsport Aston Martin. Likewise, Alexander Fraquina takes over from Martin Conrad, and Jiatong Liang from Raffaele Gia Maria. Meanwhile, here is the fight on track, and it's still Zampieri who's got his nose in front of Fabrizio Crostani, and it is allowing Michael Grenier to build just a little bit of a buffer now over this group of cars. Grenier's advantage 2 seconds or thereabouts. But Zampieri has now had a couple of laps as the pit window finishes, possibly get up to speed. Fabrizio Crestani, though. Mayfield's got a faster car, and here comes the queue down the pit lane, and it's Jietong Liang who is going to emerge into the middle of all of this, with then Valentin Pierberg right behind, and Ollie Wilkinson. This is all go as Zampieri and Crestani both pick their way past Pierberg, who then slots in ahead of Duncan Cameron. Now that's important, because that gives Pierberg, for a moment, the lead of the Pro-Am class, but not for long, as Cameron looking to challenge the inside into turn 4. No, it doesn't. It's Jietong Liang, of course, who leads the Pro-Am class in the Lamborghini, that has possibly come out perfectly to protect Mikael Grenier for a couple of moments. So the order post-pit stops is Mikael Grenier leads the race, Jietong Liang is second, Daniel Zampieri third, Fabrizio Crestani fourth, fifth is Valentin Pierberg, sixth Duncan Cameron, seventh Ollie Wilkinson, eighth is Fabio Onidi, ninth is Frederick Schandorf, and 10th is Albert Costa. So that is the order, with 22.5 minutes to go. Mikael Grenier, as the Mercedes squabble, and they get bottled up behind Jietong Liang, is taking full advantage to really stretch his advantage out to 3 seconds or so. As both Mercedes run wide, and Liang could provide... Oh, and he's just shuts the door on Zampieri, and here is Liang doing a good job of just building that buffer, really, on behalf of his fellow Lamborghini driver, Mikael Grenier. Of course, Liang, second place in the race overall. He's got and leading the Pro-Am class, no reason whatsoever to move aside to allow Daniel Zampieri through. Zampieri trying to really hustle him, and that leaves Zampieri vulnerable to challenge from Crestani. They're going to be 3 wide into the final corner, and this is going to be all a little bit tight. It's Liang who gets shoved out wide, and then Liang rejoins. It's alongside Fabrizio Crestani, and Crestani trying to nudge his way past the Lamborghinis. They head down towards turn 1. Zampieri has made the move. Liang is determined not to give it to Crestani. Very determined not to give it to Crestani, but eventually Crestani forces the issue. And now Jietong Liang has got Valentin Pierberg right behind him in the lead for the Pro-Am class. And Duncan Cameron, Ollie Wilkinson, third and fourth in the Pro-Am class, right behind him as well. So some superb scrapping. Really, really great racing here from the International GT Open, but there is still a third of the race to run. So the lead that Mikael Grenier's got now is 4.6 seconds over Daniel Zampieri. Zampieri and Crestani, they probably need to stop fighting with each other instead about chasing him down, but clearly Crestani feels that he's got a quicker car than that of Daniel Zampieri. Certainly the evidence prior to Zampieri emerging from the pits was that Crestani was on schedule to catch up to Mikael Grenier. At the moment, Daniel Zampieri hasn't suggested that he's quite able to run that schedule. Now here is the fight for the Pro-Am class lead, as Pierberg slithers wide through the Cour du Cygne, trying to pick away past Jietong Liang, and it might happen to the inside line. It's turn 11 again. Running out wide is Crestani. He's just picked up a warning for track limits. He needs to be careful. Meanwhile, here is Albert Costa to the inside of Frederick Schandorf. And Costa is only 13 seconds back from the lead here. Everybody's pace is pretty evenly matched at the moment. Zampieri and Crestani lost around. They did 2 minute 4 seconds, playing 2 minute 1 of Mikael Grenier. Now Zampieri ups his pace to match that of Mikael Grenier. Duncan Cameron lights ablaze, applying a little bit of pressure here to Valentin Pierberg. In the AM class, it's Alexander Fraquina who leads the class reasonably comfortably from Giuseppe Cipriani and Davide Roda. Particularly as Cipriani's just picked up a 10-second penalty for cutting the chicane. We are in car meanwhile with Martin Kodrich behind Thomas Jaeger in pursuit of Edward Cheever. And And this battle only happening again 20 seconds behind the lead, as now all change in the Pro-Am class, and it's Duncan Cameron who leads the Pro-Am class as they turn out of turn 7 onto the Mistral Straight. Pierberg in second, and Wilkinson trying to elbow his way through into third in the Aston Martin. And he's managed to do so as Cristani draws alongside Daniel Zampieri. And still unable to find a way through here is Fabrizio Cristani. Much to his growing frustration now. What happened? Pierberg to the inside of Liang and bumps across the curb, pushes them both out wide, and that gives a gap for Duncan Cameron to fill. And that's inspired driving from Cameron, as Mikael Grenier all the while continues to build his lead in the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini. Will the team make it 2 from 2 the opening weekend of the season? I've got to think, the way that the two Mercedes drivers are going about it, that is looking more likely than not. In the background of the pitch, though, you saw Albert Costa just begin to make a little bit of progress as well. There is Costa, and he is just up behind Fabio Benidi. So Albert Costa in 9th place, but he's going to be on the tail of this Pro-Am scrap in absolutely no time at all, as Pierberg looks to the inside of Cameron and takes the lead of the Pro-Am class, or does he? He runs wide. Cameron slides, and it gives Ollie Wilkinson the chance to challenge now. And Wilkinson, the Aston Martin, has got the run on Valentin Pierberg as they head towards the first corner. And Ollie Wilkinson should go through here. He was able to take advantage of everybody sliding around in front of him. But Pierberg shuts the door and turns through the Mercedes, asserting its position on the track. Cameron having to do much the same as well to Jietong Liang. Of the pros in the Pro-Am class, Edward Cheever is the first among them, and he is some 10 seconds, 12 seconds behind this scrap, but not catching it at sufficient rate, I don't think, to make it an issue between now and the end of the race. Meanwhile, Pierberg in the lead of the class, but a big bump over the curbs at turn 5. They've got to keep it clean through turn 6. This is the fight for 4th place in the race overall as well. As Pierberg to the inside line, down the Mistral Straight. Ollie Wilkinson following him closely. And then in the background, you have got Albert Costa about to join in this battle as well. And Costa, yesterday's race winner, 15 seconds of pit handicap, but he's really driving around. Right, another look. Pierberg to the inside of Cameron, just throws it up there. Cameron slides over the curbs. Ollie Wilkinson says, okay. Applause from Miguel Ramos's a big bite of curb again from Pierberg through the Courbe de Scene. Ollie Wilkinson has a look, so does Duncan Cameron and Jietong Liang. They're joined by Albert Costa and Fabio Benidi, and Costa needs to be careful here. This is superb racing in the Pro-Am class, and so far they've kept it clean, as Albert Costa, his first target is Jietong Liang, and for Costa, if he can get through this lot, that's 4th place for him, and more championship point benefit as Pierberg a little bit tight into the final corner. Costa tries to elbow aside Jietong Liang, and this is the opportunity for Ollie Wilkinson, and he should go through on this occasion, Wilkinson, although the Mercedes has got a lot of straight line poke. Pierberg just a little bit too hot through turn 14, compromised him at turn 15, and now it's Wilkinson, the Aston Martin, who's got the opportunity to make a bid for glory in the Pro-Am class. All 4 of these cars have had a turn in the lead. None of them have been able to keep it for more than a lap or 2. As Duncan Cameron thinks about lining up the move on Valentin Pierberg as well into turn 4. And as they battle in the background, you have got Frederick Schandorf and Edward Cheever, who are beginning to make progress towards it as well. Almost contact there between Liang and Duncan Cameron. Albert Costa doesn't quite know where to go. Cheever and Thomas Jaeger are really not very far back from this scrap now, as Zampieri and Cristani continue to go wheel to wheel. And Fabrizio Cristani, Daniel Zampieri, they are now matching Mikael Grenier for pace, but they're not really closing in on him. As Jietong Liang just squirms on the brakes into the chicane. There you see in the background now Frederick Schandorf and Nicholas Polar. Then just behind them is Edward Cheever. as Duncan Cameron has a good run down the Mistral Straight. Who is that he's challenging? Is it defending or is it passing? It's passing into the Courbe de Seine from Duncan Cameron to the inside of Valentin Pierberg. So the place gained from Cameron, and Liang looks to follow the space through. Valentin Pierberg has to take a huge bite of curb. Albert Costa just has to position his car somewhere, doesn't know where, as Pierberg fills the gap that Costa had tried to find. And now Costa elbows aside Jiatong Liang. He elbows aside Valentin Pierberg. Now Albert Costa, he's cleared a couple of the cars in the squabble. His next target being Duncan Cameron. Ollie Wilkinson's rather taken the high ground here and just tried to drive away from it all. As Costa to the inside of Cameron, Liang to the inside of Pierberg. It's all changed once more. Liang then runs wide. Schandorf has a big old bump over the curbs as well. Fabio Anidi says this looks like fun, I'm going to join in too. He draws alongside Valentin Pierberg as they come down the start and finish straight. And pretty much half the field now is about to be enjoined in this battle for fourth position. Not altogether surprisingly, a couple of warnings for track limits being proffered, but well, they're all within circuit boundaries and nobody's hit anybody yet, so all feels fair game for the moment. Albert Costa still not found a way past Duncan Cameron, and the drivers they need to really start to worry about here, as Thomas Jaeger has had a problem. What's the issue for Jaeger? That's the issue for Jaeger. He got into a spotted bother with Martin Kodrich. And around goes the Sun Energy car. I was about to say Thomas Jaeger was in within a shout of a Pro-Am podium. Here's how it looked for Martin Kodrich, and well, I'd imagine that that video is going to be shown in race control before too long. So Jiatong Liang picks up a warning flag for track limits. Albert Costa is now past Duncan Cameron. Cameron busy defending from Liang, who looks every which way into the Courbe de Seine. Fabio Anidi about to join that scrap as well. Then we've got Valentin Pierberg with Frederic Schandorf. This is the battle for second position. It's still as it was, and then increasingly frustrated Fabrizio Cristani, unable to find a way past Daniel Zampieri. There's nothing that Zampieri can do, or rather nothing that Cristani can do about Zampieri, who knows exactly where to position his machinery. Back to the Titanic scrap in the Pro-Am class, and it's just about resolving itself as Edward Cheever catches the group, as well as Schandorf to the inside of Valentin Pierberg, and that is another Pro-Am position lost for Pierberg. That puts him to 5th in the class, and there in the background as well is Martin Kodrich in the McLaren, so they're all closing up on each other. Here's Wilkinson in 4th place in the Aston Martin. This battle is now some 10 seconds behind the Zampieri and Cristani one, so 4th place is about as good as it is likely to get for Albert Costa, but given the safety car period and the 15 seconds in the pits, that's still very, very good going. And Costa to the inside of Wilkinson into turn 5, and that is astute driving from Ollie Wilkinson. He doesn't need to fight Albert Costa. He and Bradley Ellis are after the Pro-Am class victory. Zampieri and Cristani doing what they do. It's still Michael Grenier who leads the way, 5.5 seconds ahead of the dueling Mercedes. And then it's Albert Costa in 4th. Ollie Wilkinson 5th, leads the Pro-Am class. This is the fight for 2nd in the Pro-Am class, and it's still just Duncan Cameron who leads the class from Jiatong Liang. Another look at the move from Albert Costa to the inside of Ollie Wilkinson. And that was textbook stuff from Costa, but also very, very sensible from Wilkinson. He's not needing to fight that too hard at all. So they're all queuing up now for 2nd in the Pro-Am class. It's Duncan Cameron who's got the honour. Cheever is just with Valentin Pierberg at the very back of that group. After that spin, Thomas Jaeger rather out of contention for it. Got a few of the pro cars trying to fight their way through this as well. In the AM class, it's Alexander Fraquina who still leads that from Giuseppe Cipriani. 9 minutes to go. And Liang pulls the pin, darts the inside of Duncan Cameron. Cameron unable to defend that one. Shiva pursues Pierberg down the start and finish straight. Here is the race leader, Mikael Grenier, on his 24th lap. And yes, in the background, Shiva to the inside of Valentin Pierberg. So that is the place gained for the Tempesta Racing Ferrari. Next target, Nicholas Pola, who's trying to squeeze past Frederick Schandorf. And he looks to do it to turn 4. That's going to be very tight. There's contact, and around goes Schandorf. He spins. The high abrasion runoff area does its job, and Schandorf is going to rejoin just behind Martin Kodrich. And Kodrich, in turn, looking to the inside of Valentin Pierberg. And he may well go through. Indeed, he does. And, well, these guys are all at it in absolute supercars, and it's like a Formula Ford 1600 race, because wheel-to-wheel racing every which way. This is multi-mark GT racing. It's very best as Chiva looking to make a little bit more ground. Indeed, he does so. That is to the inside of Nicholas Pola. So here is Albert Costa in 4th. Pro-Am class leader Ollie Wilkinson, there he goes. Then it's Jiatong Liang from Duncan Cameron. It's another look, and just a little bit of a tap to Frederick Schandorf. Around goes Schandorf, fortunately nothing to hit there, so he rejoins. Imagine probably thoroughly unamused by all of that. Shiva to the inside then of Nicholas Pola. It's now the turn of Martin Kodrich to start to apply a bit of pressure to Pola. Meanwhile, Shiva trying to reel in Fabio Anini. We're in car with Martin Kodrich. And Kodrich getting to the point where he may well yet get into the points. Accelerating out of the final turn. In the front of the field, Mikael Grenier leads by 4.8 seconds from Daniel Zampieri and Fabrizio Cristani. Meanwhile, Frederick Schandorf is back up and running. He's behind Alberto Di Folco, as Kodrich has a little bit of a nibble to the inside of Nicholas Pola. Kodrich isn't going to be able to challenge into turn 4. May fancy his chances into turn 5. Rides the curb. No gap, though, presents itself to the inside, so he stays where he was. And 6 minutes to run. It's anybody's guess what the Pro-Am class podium is going to look like. So the first lap instant having no further action as Kodrich to the inside of Pola, who tries to squeeze him, but Martin Kodrich slips past. That elevates him up into 10th. Meanwhile, Valentin Pierberg trying to keep Alberto Di Folco behind him out over the curb. He is going to be passed by Folco and also possibly Frederick Schandorf. It's another look then at the move from Kodrich to the inside. But for Martin Kodrich, his moment with Thomas Jaeger is now under investigation. Not perhaps totally surprisingly, here is the race leader, Mikael Grenier. And Grenier, I have to tell you, is being caught very rapidly at the moment by Daniel Zampieri with Fabrizio Cristani, his ever-present shadow. Zampieri completes the lap and is now just 3.7 seconds back from Mikael Grenier. That last lap from Grenier was a 2 minutes 2.4, and so Zampieri a full second quicker. And with 3 laps to go in the race, at that rate of capture, Zampieri would be with Grenier by the flag, and Albert Costa is catching the leading group all at once. Meanwhile, Chiva alongside Fabio Anidi as they head towards turn 1, and Chiva should go through. Looks to swoop around the outside, thinks better of it just in that moment. Well, a couple more places gained for Chiva as he flashes his headlights will be enough to see him pass Duncan Cameron onto the Pro-Am class podium. Jiatong Liang also not too much further up the road ahead of Cameron. Meanwhile, Cristani again looking to the inside of Zampieri, and you just wonder, the advice might be for those two to hold formation just to see if they can turn up a bit of heat on Mikael Grenier. in car with Martin Kodrich once more. As he pursues Cheever and Onidi, all behind Duncan Cameron, all very, very close. And Jiatong Liang is now coming up to the tail of Ollie Wilkinson, and there's only about a second or so between them as Cheever has got the run on Onidi and goes past him. Martin Kodrich also looking to do much the same to Fabio Onidi, as Zampieri and Cristani have had their sort out, and Cristani is ahead of Zampieri. It's been a long time coming. And now Fabrizio Cristani up into second position, ahead of Daniel Zampieri. Here is what happened, and it was a little bit of a nudge from Fabrizio Cristani, just unsettled the tail of Zampieri's car. And even with all of that, Cristani a little bit quicker than Michael Grenier. They're into the penultimate lap of the race now. Cristani may well run out of time. Meanwhile, here's Kodrich on Cheever, and also up towards Cameron. Martin Kodrich scythes past Cheever. This puts Kodrich into 8th place. It's been an absolute storm through the field from Martin Kodrich after that first lap incident. Cheever looking to try and fight back if he can. This is all the fight for 7th place, as Cameron a little bit wayward through turn 4. Gathers up though for turn 5. Two Lazarus Lamborghinis, pursued by Alberto Di Folco. They all fly in formation. On to the Mistral straight once more. Jiatong Liang trying to come up to Ollie Wilkinson. Meanwhile, Cristani now in clear air is very rapidly reeling in Michael Grenier. She's going to run out of time as Kodrich thinks about a look to the inside of Duncan Cameron, tries to force Cameron offline. He more or less succeeds in so doing. It's up over the curbs. Now down they come, and Kodrich should move clear of Cameron as they turn into the Courbe d'Assine. He swoops around. Now this opens the door to Cheever to challenge Cameron for 3rd place in the Pro-Am class. Two Ferraris, nose to tail. Cheever seeing a gap there to the inside of Duncan Cameron, not quite. He has got Fabio Onidi filling his mirrors as Kodrich has been and gone from this battle. The last lap of the race has started, and Jiatong Liang is right with Ollie Wilkinson. This for the lead of the Pro-Am class for 5th overall, as Cristani is off like a scalded cat after Michael Grenier. Took 2 seconds out of Grenier last time around, in fact, Fabrizio Cristani. As Jiatong Liang flashes his headlights at Ollie Wilkinson. No way through past Wilkinson just a moment. And this is one of those last laps where you really do not know where to look, because Fabrizio Cristani has taken half a second out of Michael Grenier through the first sector, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Cristani is going to be with the race leader as they come up towards the flag. Meanwhile, Cheever is past Duncan Cameron. We didn't see how it happened, but it has. So Cheever moves up to 3rd in the Pro-Am class. Alberto Di Folco trying to pick his way around Nicholas Pola. Pola squeezes him out over the curbs. So they swoop onto the Mistral straight for the final time. Clock ticking to 0. Here is Michael Grenier. Fabrizio Cristani in pursuit. He's now just 1.5 seconds back from Grenier. He's gained 8/10 over the course of this lap, and if Cristani had got through with just one more lap available to him, he would have been right with Michael Grenier. As it is, I think he's going to run out of time, but Grenier has really struggled for pace the last couple of laps, and Cristani is closing here. Fabrizio Cristani, is he going to get one shot at Michael Grenier? He's going to potentially do it into the final corner. He's not quite near enough now. He's going to have to risk everything through turn 14. But Michael Grenier, as they head towards turn 15, Cristani is there, but he's not quite close enough as they come through the final turn. Accelerates the checkered flag, and Michael Grenier and Norbert Seidler take victory for Emil Frey Racing in the 2nd round of the International GT Open. to a standing ovation in the garage. Runners-up Fabrizio Crestani and Miguel Ramos, with Daniel Zampieri and Alessio Rivera in third. Albert Costa into fourth position alongside Giacomo Altoe, and then it is Jietong Liang who has taken the lead of the Pro-Am class on the last lap of the race. So Liang wins the Pro-Am class from Ollie Wilkinson, with then Shiva third in class, having passed Duncan Cameron late on as well, as the field surge across the line. And in the AM class, it is Alexander Fraquina who has just held on to win the class from Giuseppe Cipriani and Davide Roda. What a fantastic race that was. The last 20 minutes or so, absolutely breathless action. And one more lap, and Mikael Grenier would have been under real threat from Fabrizio Crestani. As it was, it is the win to Mikael Grenier and Norbert Seidler. For Fabrizio Crestani, those laps spent bottled up behind Daniel Zampieri, what might have been. So look then at the classification. Seidler and Grenier win it, with Ramos and Crestani runners up, 6/10 of a second adrift. Daniel Zampieri, Alessio Rivera in third. Albert Costa, Giacomo Altoe in fourth. Pro-Am honours to Jietong Liang and Raffaele Giammaria after a frenetic last lap, where Liang overhauled Ollie Wilkinson in the Aston Martin he shares with Bradley Ellis. Codric and Chavez from 20th on lap 3 to 7th at the flag. Christopher Froggatt and Eddie Cheever the third, completing the Pro-Am podium ahead of Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin, with Eliseo Martinez and Fabio Onidi completing the top 10. Then DeMarco and Pola, fast lap of the race to Alberto Di Folco, and he and Christopher Lenz on the way to 12th ahead of Ling and Schandorf. Kenny Harble and Thomas Jaeger disappointing after Jaeger spun around. Pierberg and Onslow Cole fading to 16th. Alexander Fraquina and Martin Conrad making it a double in the AM class here in Paul Ricard, ahead of Giuseppe Cipriani and Davide Roda. Antonio Coimbra and Luis Silva completing the finishers after we lost, of course, Fran Rueda and Marcello Hahn to that huge accident on the first lap of the race. So in terms of the championship then, well, Albert Costa and Giacomo Altoe lead it by just 3 points from Ramos and Crestani, with Codric and Chavez just 7 points back, with Grenier and Seidler, Zampieri and Rivera all very much in the mix. And it really suggests that we could be in for a vintage season in the International GT Open. The cars so evenly matched this weekend here in Paul Ricard, and they have really given us some wonderful entertainment. And looking forward to hearing the winner's interview after the race from Mikael Grenier and Norbert Seidler. They managed the race strategy absolutely to perfection, and for Emil Frey Racing returning to the championship after a year's hiatus and immediately back into winning ways. Fabrizio Crestani out of the SPS Mercedes, and well, accepting the congratulations from Stefan, GT Sport cameraman, and others in the paddock. Could see it was a very fine drive from Fabrizio Crestani, but as ever, it's always a sense of, well, what might have been, as he crosses to have a chat with Daniel Zampieri, but also they shake hands on it. A thoroughly enjoyable battle, and certainly no ill feeling between the pair of them. But for Mikael Grenier and Norbert Seidler, the disappointment of yesterday, where they didn't even complete a lap, now victorious in the International GT Open. They enjoy that. They congratulate each other and celebrate in Parc Fermé. Very happy drivers, and understandably so. Mikael Grenier worked very hard. Fabrizio Crestani likewise.
Thanks, Zampieri.
Yeah, and he says, well, thanks Zampieri, because if he'd had one more lap to go at Mikael Grenier, he'd certainly been in a position to challenge him. Whether or not he'd been able to find a way through, of course, is another matter of conjecture. Emil Frey Racing celebrating. Superb race.
Perfect win for Emil Frey Racing again, but this time with Norbert Siedler and Michael Grenier. Norbert, you were first, so tell us about the race.
The start was again a bit crazy. Like yesterday, I was lucky in the first corner because there was a big accident. I went from P7 to P4. The first lap was quite good. And then I just stayed behind my teammate. He did also a brilliant job in the first stint. And then I gave it to Mick, and Mick did an amazing job the last laps. And thanks a lot to the team. They did an amazing job over the weekend, and thanks a lot.
Michael, you were under pressure, of course, in the second stint. Your face shows it. But the fight for second gave you some breath.
Yeah, I think definitely Crestani was the quickest guy. But he had, I think, a long battle with Zampieri. Then at the end, I could see him coming, but I knew the gap I had, and I knew there was only 3-4 laps to go, so there was no point to take a risk. Tire, a bit of deck, brake pedal a bit long, so just bring it home.
Good start of the season. Well done, guys.
Thanks.
Podium now.
Thanks a lot.
So as the lights went out, it was a sprint between Onslow Cole and Alessio Rivera down towards turn one, with Rivera getting his nose in front of Onslow Cole. However, that turned out not to be the story of the first lap, as there was a tangle between Fran Rueda and Enrique Chavez, and as the McLarens spun, that left Alain Cadet in the third tow, or rather Marcello Hahn in the third tow, Martin Motorsport. McLarens with nowhere to go, slamming into Fran Rueda. Fortunately, Rueda and Hahn more or less okay, but it prompted a safety car period. When the race got back underway, Enrique Chavez was driving like a man possessed through the field, having avoided picking up substantial damage. Post pit stops, meanwhile, it was Albert Costa who was the man on the move, as Valentin Pierberg, Jiatong Liang, Duncan Cameron and several others all got involved in the battle for the lead in the Pro-Am class. So frenetic dicing, as at the front of the field, Michael Grenier led the way from Daniel Zampieri and Fabrizio Crestani. Pachiva III was busy coming through the field, also to feature the Pro-Am podium as Frederick Schandorf and Nicholas Pola tangled heading into turn 4. This was the moment where Crestani was able to just move up ahead of Daniel Zampieri and set off in pursuit of Michael Grenier. Crestani got oh so close, but it was victory for Emil Frey Racing, Michael Grenier and Norbert Siedler. Crestani and Miguel Ramos as runners-up from Daniel Zampieri and Alessio Rivera. Jiatong Liang and Raffaele Gianmaria bringing the Pro-Am class, and Alexander Raquina and Martin Conrad making it a double in the Am class for the weekend. It was a truly superb race. Lots of happy drivers ready to take their places up on the podium. Really, really superb racing all the way through the field. Smiles all around. So winners, Michael Grenier and Norbert Siedler. Runners-up, Fabrizio Crestani and Miguel Ramos, and third place to Alessio Rivera and Daniel Zampieri. Emil Frey Racing, the winning team once more. 6 very happy drivers on the rostrum after a truly thrilling race around the Paul Ricard circuit. Third place trophies to Zampieri and Rivera. Runners up, Crestani and Ramos. And it's been a great weekend for Emil Frey, racing both of their cars on to the top step of the International GT Open podium. Victory today for Mikael Grenier and Norbert Siedler. And once the team trophy pose for the photos, and then it will be time for the drivers to celebrate on the rostrum. We will be back in action the last weekend of May, and we will be back at Hockenheim. We will see you then. Until then, it's goodbye from Paul Ricard. So next up, it is on to the Pro-Am podium with third place to Edward Cheever and Chris Froggatt. Runners up, Ollie Wilkinson and Bradley Ellis. They led going to the final lap, but they couldn't quite keep it all the way through to the checker flag, and that meant that Jiatong Liang and Raffaele Gianmaria taking victory in the Pro-Am class. Great weekend for the Lamborghini pairing. Third place in the class yesterday. So on to the trophies for third place to Cheever and Froggatt. Runners up, Wilkinson and Ellis, all part of the learning curve for them and with the new Aston Martin. And inspired, aggressive performance from Jiatong Liang in the second half of the race to claim Pro-Am class victory. Superb battling in the Pro-Am class, really spectacular stuff. So again, posing for the photos, and then time to celebrate on the rostrum. Bubbly flying in Paul Ricard in the Pro-Am class. Ellis and Wilkinson celebrate. They've got a month to ready themselves for the next race in Hockenheim. All smiles from the teams down in the pit lane. And then, last but certainly not least, the AM class podium. And it is the same as we had yesterday, with in third place Davide Roda, second place Giuseppe Cipriani, and then race winners Alexandra Fraquina and Martin Conrad. So a lot to celebrate for the Antonelli Motorsport team this weekend, with an outright race podium this afternoon and two podiums in both races. So Davide Roda, he certainly enjoyed his racing this weekend. Giuseppe Cipriani has been very quick in the Mercedes. And for Conrad and Harquina, a great qualifying this morning for Martin Conrad, and he was able to use that to good effect for himself, Alexander Rakwena. So in the AM class, difficult weekend for the Sports New Mercedes. Antonio Coimbra and Louis Silva not making it onto the podium, which is very unusual for them. Cipriani receives his runners-up trophy, with Rakwena and Conrad celebrating on the top step of the podium. So that brings to a close what's been an excellent way to kick off the 2019 International GT Open season in Paul Ricard. We hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. And as the champagne's about to fly on the rostrum, it's time to say goodbye from France and see you in Hockenheim in a month's time.
La Formule 4 qui compte pour le championnat d'Espagne.